I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal-making across sports, media, and entertainment.
That is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called The Deal.
Listen to The Deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
Survivor 46 is here, and so is On Fire, the only official Survivor podcast, and we have a twist this season. The winner of Survivor 45, Dee Valladares, will be joining us every week.
We're going behind the scenes of the biggest moments, the how and the why things happen, and the strategy and analysis you can only get from someone like me, a Survivor winner.
Listen to On Fire, the official Survivor podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. She punches the air and she crosses that blue finish line. The world champion of 12 months ago, who finished second here last time around, has won it.
The athlete's village is not a place for fighting. I've never heard that ever in Olympic and Paralympic history.
This is Anything But Footy, the Olympic and Paralympic podcast, covering the games all the time, rather than once every 4 years. I'm John.
And I'm Michael, and this is a special episode with British rowing, as we look ahead to the World Championships in Belgrade, which begin on the 3rd of September.
Currently our aim is to go into this championships and qualify the boat for the Olympics. That's kind of like the underlying thing we're really trying to nail.
As always, you can get in touch with us on social media. You can find us on Anything But F on X. We're also on Facebook, Insta and Threads. And find out more about us and the work we do, or send us a message, please visit our website, anythingbutfooty.com.
62 athletes will be representing Great Britain in Serbia. British rowing are enjoying a good season after topping the medal table at the European Championships and winning the overall World Cup trophy. Many of the team will be looking to defend world titles won in 2022. They include Emily Craig and Imogen Grant in the lightweight women's double sculls, as well as the women's 4 and the men's 8.
And in para rowing, the Mixed Coxed Four are unbeaten this season and aiming to retain the gold medal they won last year. We'll hear from members of that crew.
Hello, my name is Morgan Fice-Noyes and I'm in the PR3 Mixed Coxed Four.
I'm Frankie Allen and I'm also in the PR3 Mixed Coxed Four.
But let's start with the men's 4. They won the world title in 2022 and will be looking to continue Great Britain's proud tradition in this boat. Michael's been speaking to 2 of the crew.
Hi, my name is Ollie Wilkes and I'm in the men's 4.
I'm David Ambler and I'm also in the men's 4.
David, I'll start with you. As British sport fans of the Olympics, fans of rowing, we have a love affair, don't we, with the men's 4, and it's a love affair that's endured for decades now.
Yeah, there's definitely a kind of a strong history to the event, and obviously kind of some big names that have come through the sport, and particularly this event and the 4, which is definitely kind of fun to be a part of for sure. Definitely enjoy that.
We've all worked so hard to get here, through like various different paths to actually get into sort of an Olympic class boat a year ahead of the Olympics is pretty special, and we're hoping to do well at this World Championships and hopefully try and like keep that up for next year. But we'll have a bunch of trials next year as well, so we've got to do well this year and then try and hold on to it next year, sort of thing.
Yeah, David, talk us through that process, if you like, because obviously there's qualifying the boat, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we'll see you marching in the opening ceremony or sailing on the River Seine in the opening ceremony in Paris. There's 2 parts of that process. Talk us through it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first kind of step is the World Championships. I think the top 7 boats in our event will qualify directly for the Olympics. I think there is some provision for our event to then qualify a few additional boats at the last chance regatta next year. But kind of currently our aim is to go into this championships and qualify the boat for the Olympics. That's kind of like the underlying thing we're really trying to nail. And then, yeah, it kind of almost resets a little bit after that for next season, for the Olympics. Obviously kind of, we want to be in the boat now and race, but then you've kind of got to prove yourself all over again next year. The team is incredibly strong. There's serious depth in it. And so, there'll be a whole another round of testing early next season to ensure that they're selecting the fastest boats possible. So yeah, you kind of got that first project almost, which is just qualifying the boat and performing as well as you can at Worlds, and then building towards next year. Then yeah, you've got selection to worry about again. But I think at the moment that's kind of back of our minds as we focus on Worlds for now.
And Ollie, obviously this season's been a good one for you guys, unbeaten this season. Talk us through then the campaign to date ahead of these World Championships, how you've been feeling.
So since the last race we did in Lucerne, we've been on 2 training camps. The first one we went to Silvretta in Austria, which is an altitude training camp. And that's like big, long mileage at altitude. And that was a pretty hard camp. A lot of people were getting real tired, but it's super good training, and really sort of helps build a sort of aerobic base, like coming into the Worlds. And then after that, we came back for a day and then went straight off to Portugal for another 2-week camp. Really hot temperatures, but that one's more of a taper camp. So, starting to freshen up, more intensity, less mileage. And yeah, I think it's been going well for us. It's not always a straight line in terms of like always getting better, but I think over the process of the 2 camps, we've really started to sort of like ramp up, and I think the boat's feeling pretty good ahead of the World Championships now before we travel.
And David, take us back, because a year ago you went as a spare, but ended up with the gold medal. What happened?
Yeah, it was definitely kind of a bit of an unexpected turn going to the Worlds in Rachice as a spare. And then yeah, unfortunately one of the guys in the 4, I think on the morning of the first race of the heat, tested positive for COVID. And then given the protocols in place at the time and with the isolation requirements, he had to isolate, couldn't train, couldn't race. And so, yeah, kind of at the last moment had to hop in, and just kind of try to do my best and fit into his crew and sit in his seat. And yeah, did the kind of racing that week, which was, yeah, unexpected to say the least. And kind of just relieved to have gotten through that, you know, not, I guess, halted what for them was a really stellar season. They were on such a strong upward trajectory. So it's just kind of hop in and try, disrupt things as little as possible. Now I get to race with him, which is nice, because I think you wouldn't wish that on anyone. Such a horrible experience to spend the whole year training and then get ill literally on the day of your first race. And so it's really nice to be able to actually race with him now. And he sits in front of me in the boat. And he's an incredibly talented oarsman. So to sit behind him is really nice. I think I kind of a much better situation than filling in for him.
Yeah, you're talking about Matt Aldridge. Obviously, Freddie Davison is the other member of your crew this time. Ollie, I know that you're kind of at the start, if you like, of your elite sporting career, but been reading a little bit about you, and you've got an eye on what happens after your competitive rowing career. And engineering is something that you'll be hoping to make a bit of a splash in. So let me ask you this question. In the men's 4, as an engineer, is it very technical and is it all about the details, or is it just that brute force and strength to get 2,000 meters up the course?
Well, like anything in engineering, it's all about compromise. So you've got to have a bit of the two. In rowing, you're trying to sort of bring 4 people together, and try and become greater than some of your parts. So that is kind of the technical side. But then there's also like an output side in terms of you do need to get the work on as well as rowing well. So I'd say it's 50-50 in that sort of sense. You've got to do both. If you do one but not the other, it's probably not going to go too well. So both is my answer.
And David, you all have sort of individual characters in the boat. I mean, what would you describe Ollie as? What does he bring to the party? That engineering, that brute force? Where does he fit in?
Ollie is, he's the best of both, I'd say. He is the strongest in the crew physically. But he's also the guy with the toe. So he's got the steering wires attached to his foot. So he's got to steer the boat down the course because surprisingly they actually don't go very straight. It's trying to twist and turn a little bit as we kind of try and row identical to each other, but you're never quite on it. So he's both got kind of the biggest numbers in the boat, but he's also providing us with like a straight line to the core or along the course, and sitting in the bows. It's quite a technical position. So he's kind of there doing that fine balancing act between the two. But he's a good man to have in your boat, and sitting behind me, I know he's kind of ending himself to get us in front, which is nice. Good guy to have in the boat.
Yeah, I think we saw, didn't we, at the last Olympics, some of the issues with steering and one of the British crews that nearly went into someone else's lane. You know what's coming now, Ollie, don't you? I'm going to ask you what David brings to the party, and he's just been very effusive in his praise for you. So your turn.
Yeah, I've got to really step up my game here, haven't I?
You could hammer him if you want.
Well, Dave is the calls man. He's the leader of our crew. So he's the one that's talking to us as we're going down. He's kind of our coach during training, but also, the taskmaster when it comes to the race. So he's calling the shots when it comes to tactics in the race. He's getting us going, making sure we're working hard enough and rowing well enough. So, also really strong. He doesn't like to say it, but you know, he's one of the strong boys of the crew. And we're there sort of trying to fill in and make the sort of back up the stern pair in the bow pair. So stern pair are like setting it up and we've got to jump in there together. Ambler's the guy that talks. I personally don't talk. I'm too busy thinking about how to row. I would struggle to talk whilst rowing, whereas Ambler's like able to do it really well. So, you need someone with a clear head in the thick of the moment to take up that role. And Ambler does a really good job of that. So
that was nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm delighted that you've been able to talk to me today, even if you don't talk when you're actually racing, because you've both provided a real fascinating insight into what's to come at the World Championship. So we wish you both, and the other guys, of course, all the very best, and hope to catch up on that road to Paris shortly as well. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much for
Thank you. Cheers, Michael.
David Ambler and Ollie Wilkes of the men's four. This is Anything But Footy, and ahead of the World Rowing Championships, we're hearing from British Rowing on how they've been preparing. In June this year, the Mixed Coxed Four crew of Frankie Allen, Morgan Fice-Noyes, Deirdre Rouse-Couscate and Ed Fuller, together with their cox Erin Kennedy, posted the world's best time at the World Cup event in Varese. It set them up perfectly for the World Championships, as Michael found out when speaking to Morgan and Frankie.
I'm feeling pretty confident. I think we've had a really good season leading up to the World Champs. Like we've had the World Cup and European Championships, and both went well. We set a new world record in World Cup 1, which was in Varese, which was really good. And we've just almost coming off the back of about 6 weeks on camp. So we've had a really solid training block, and so I think we're sort of building on each race, and I'm feeling pretty confident going into the World Championships next week.
Yeah, unbeaten this season. We hear this word confidence in sport quite a lot, Morgan, but take us inside. What does being unbeaten mean? What does it bring to the team then when you go out on the water?
It definitely brings a bit of pressure onto the boat, but then it's also having that in your mind that we are like the best and want to keep it that way.
I guess when you're on a training camp, you have that time, and because we've been away in Varese in Italy, and because we're all staying in a hotel and we're having food cooked for ourselves, basically our priority is recovery and then just training hard. And then I guess once you get out to the championships and you've got that week before racing, it's almost like all your the hard work and training's done, but you've just got to keep on top of it and prioritize yourself and your recovery so that you're in the best shape possible for the race. But actually all the hard work and physiological changes that would happen on camp have already happened.
And this is a fairly new cohort that we're seeing coming through with British rowing at the moment as we head to the next Olympics and Paralympics. So for people that don't know, Morgan, how did you get into the sport?
I started off playing rugby when I was young, and my eyesight started deteriorating. So I thought to myself, I want to continue doing sport. So I was just looking around, gave rowing a go, and just sort of liked what I was doing and just got in it through there, really.
Well, I actually started rowing when I was 13, I want to say, at school. But I didn't realise, so I was born with a condition called Erb's palsy, which was from a birth injury. But I didn't actually realise that I could classify just until it was weird that like my uncle was speaking to someone, and it just came up in conversation. They said, oh, why don't you come and try out? And that's sort of what got me into the para side, but I rowed a bit at school as well.
And you've rowed as a pair, and obviously you're going to the World Championship as the Mixed Coxed Four. Do you have any preference? Is it easier when there's four of you in the cox, or how does that compare?
Probably easier in the four, yeah. A bit more power and legs in there, even though it can be heavy with an extra person in the boat.
Because we've got Erin, our cox, and she's just lying in the bows. We've got more weight to like shift along, but because there's more people in the boat, it's more stable than it being in a smaller boat. So I guess it's easier to make those like technical changes.
And just before we wrap up, I mean, Morgan, obviously we are looking forward to the Paralympics. I think it was at the time of recording, it's a year yesterday until the start of the Paralympics. I'm sure you'll be very aware of that. Have you got that Paralympic final date kind of circled in your calendar, or do you need to get there and qualify and get through these World Championships first?
Yeah, definitely get there and get the Worlds, smash it and qualify for next year.
And Frankie, that has to be the ambition then as we go to these World Championships, is to come back with a gold after the season you guys have had.
Yeah, I think definitely that is the aim. And I think we'll just go out and do our best, and we've got the confidence that we've had a good block of training leading into it. So I think as long as we do our best, then that's all we can do. But it's the top 6 we have to come in to qualify the boat for the games next year. And then when we go into next season, it only qualifies the boat and not the people. So we've then got to go through the trialling process to sort of get back in the boat again, which, so that will be the aim next season.
This is Anything But Footy, and we're talking British rowing, and still to come we'll speak to Morgan Fice-Noyes and Frankie Allen from the Mixed Coxed Four and hear how something Lola Anderson wrote in her diary after watching the rowing at London 2012 has an extra special meaning more than a decade later.
It was my dream to go to the Olympics one day, even though I was quite shy about it then, so I ripped the page out, threw it away in the bin because I was so embarrassed by it. And then my dad, just before he passed away, like gave that page back to me, which I'd completely forgotten about. But he hadn't, and he'd held on to it.
I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal-making across sports, media, and entertainment.
That is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called The Deal.
Listen to The Deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
This is Anything But Footy. As we've been hearing, these World Championships are a crucial part of the process heading to next summer's Olympic and Paralympic Games. In Tokyo, the women's quadruple sculls failed to make the final. But with a new crew this year, they'll be looking to build on their 2 World Cup silver medals this season.
Hello, I'm Georgie Brayshaw. I'm in the women's quad. Hi, my name's Lola Anderson, and I am also in the women's quad.
Lola, I'll start with you. How are you feeling as we are a few days away now from these World Championships?
I feel good. It's kind of a weird feeling, sometimes a bit surreal to think about, because we've all been training and rowing quite a few years, and at some point we've all looked at the Senior World Championships and like qualifying for the Olympics as like a bit of a distant, far off dream. So to be here and feel like fairly comfortable right now because of all of the hard work and training we've done is quite, like, I guess, humbling looking back on it all. It's been quite a long journey. So it's nice just to be here right now.
And Georgie, when we look ahead to this event, what's most important for you? Is it that qualification part towards the Olympics, or is it being on the podium and having that world medal in your pocket that no one can take away from you?
I suppose both. Ultimately we are going for the medals, and if we're going for the medals, then we are going to qualify as well. So for me personally, like we want to qualify, obviously that is our main job, but I think the medals is where we're really aiming, and that's where we should be, and like that's what we're targeting really.
And there's been quite a Is it right to say maybe a culture change at British rowing over the past few years? Lots of things have changed for you guys. Can you tell us what sort of has happened since the last Olympics that's got British rowing into the position it's in now?
So neither of us were actually in the team present for the last Olympics. So I guess actually from our perspective coming in, we were sort of in a transition period where we were sandwiched in between part of the old training program and the cultures and the values that were with that. And then transitioning again, into this new sort of style of training that we've got from our new head coach, Andy. And I guess just, something new from the outside that he brought in was he was really attentive to the language and the words we chose to use to sort of mark out what we wanted our training to look like in everyday values that we could take through and forwards into racing. So I don't know what the culture was specifically like before, but I know that we've worked very hard to try and shape our culture very deliberately today into something that we can be proud of as a team.
And that's Andrew Randall, who's obviously your coach that you referenced there. He's also made some practical changes in terms of where you train and how you train. What can you tell us about those, Georgie?
So he really likes coming from Australia, where I think they have very long pieces of water. He's not the biggest fan of Caversham, so we quite often go out to the river at Longridge, where it's a 5k stretch, so we can just do 5k continuously without stopping, and then your heart rate comes, if you do 2k, you stop every 2k obviously, and your heart rate comes down. So when we go to the river, our heart rate's going to stay up for longer, and so ultimately that's better for our fitness. So quite often we go to Longridge during the winter, but then having a 2k lake, obviously we race on a 2k lake, so that's great practice for us. So we have a bit of best of both really. If we want to work on our fitness, we can go elsewhere, but if we want the practice on a 2k lake, then we've got the perfect setup here. So just kind of between the two, it's really good.
And that 5k stretch that you've been training on, I mean, how tough is that? I mean, we know that training to be part of British rowing is very tough anyway, but then to have that difference, that 5k stretch, how tough is that for you?
Yeah, it's quite tough, because sometimes when you're on 2k lake, it's a little nice it's quite nice when you stop at the 2k and have a drink. On a 5k river, it is harder, and obviously you've got steering and things to consider as well on the river, which adds another element. But you can definitely feel the fitness is getting better every time you do it, and I can see why he wants us to do that. I think it is good.
I'd say part of that also comes from the fact that, as you say, because we don't stop and start as much, most juniors and most rowers in this country will learn on a river first, so they will be experienced with long distance rowing. But what the change Andrew's brought in, which is more the bigger factor in that, is that we do a lot more intensity. And so instead of doing a 5k UT2 loop and then taking a break and going, it's now all at intensity, which is the element to it, which I think actually really made the difference for us.
Lola, do you love what you do, or when you're on that 5k lake, can that be a pretty miserable existence sometimes? Be honest.
No, I actually really do. And I think that's going to make me sound really, really keen. And Georgie's looking at me like, what? Really? But I really do love rowing. I started rowing because it was sort of something that was talked about and spoken about in my family. And at first I just really liked having that connection with my siblings and my dad, who used to row. And then as I've grown up and I've sort of started to see the sport as more my own and not just a shared family sort of thing, I really enjoyed the independence it gave me as sport came along. And now I just find it really relaxing, even when we are just going up and down, smashing around at a high rate or whatever it is. There's something about it that makes me feel quite at peace with myself. So yeah, I'm going to get dragged for that later, being really keen, but I do really like it.
Georgie, is she telling the truth? What about you?
Yeah, I think that is Lola's truth. I do love rowing, but I just love it in the fact, so I came to rowing later in life, and earlier in my life when I was 15, I had quite a severe accident. And so for me now, it's almost proving people wrong that I can do it. And I just love pushing my body to the max and just seeing how far I can push it. So I love rowing, but I think I just love it because I just love almost proving people wrong that I can do things, and I can, do it really well. And I just love seeing how far I can push my body and just showing people that I've, got a bit of an edge and, how far we can go. And it's pretty cool. I like the training side.
Just finally, you both mentioned a little bit there about adversity, whether that was loss of a parent, whether that was serious injury that you've had. What does it mean to you then to represent your country when you look at that journey that you've both been on?
For me, I'm just really proud. And sometimes I have to pinch myself at the moment and just think, wow, I'm going to an Olympic. Who'd have thought it? Like that girl at high school that was really shy, at uni that was really shy, was very quiet and not particularly sporty. Like I was really into horses and things. To then sometimes I really do have to pinch myself and be like, wow, this is amazing what I'm doing. And it is really cool. And I'm just proud, just really proud of myself and of the team and who I've become as a person and through sport.
Lola?
The emotions I feel are kind of torn between, the pride that I feel in myself for doing it, and then the pride that I feel, knowing that I've done it not for anyone, but a little bit like in memory of my dad. He was always hugely supportive, as was my mum, but as I mentioned, my dad was the one that rode to begin with. And from a young age, he noticed very early on, how keen I was. I had, written in my diary, quite a few times when I was watching the London 2012 Olympics. It was my dream to go to the Olympics one day, even though I was quite shy about it then. So I ripped the page out, threw it away in the bin because I was so embarrassed by it. And then my dad, just before he passed away, gave that page back to me, which I'd completely forgotten about. He hadn't, and he'd held on to it for the best part of 8 years, because he believed that someday I would do it, and he wanted to be able to give it back to me one day as that sort of proof in the self-belief I had in myself then. So for me, it's a full circle experience of I'm doing it for myself, but it also makes me extremely emotional, thinking about the support that your loved ones and your parents and your friends give you from day one that you might not recognise. It's been there all along.
Georgie Brayshaw and Lola Anderson, part of the women's quadruple sculls crew, who'll be rowing alongside Hannah Scott and Lauren Henry. The World Championships in Belgrade take place between the 3rd and 10th of September. You've been listening to Anything But Footy. Good luck to all at British Rowing.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.